Right, let's just get straight into it because today we are looking at something that is actively trying to rewrite the rulebook for high-performance cars. I mean, think about the legacy royalty for a second, right? The Porsche 911 Turbo, the electric Taycan, the Aston Martin Vantage. These are names that command absolute, unquestioned respect. But in this explainer, we're going to be looking really closely at a highly ambitious disruptor from the Far East. It's called Denza, and it has set its crosshairs directly on those exact European stalwarts. And to really understand why those legacy brands might actually need to be sweating right now, we have to look at one very specific number: 1,583. Now, that is not the weight of the car in kilograms. That is the staggering brake horsepower of the new Denza Z sports car. And, just in case that wasn't quite enough to completely bend your mind, it is backed up by 929 pound-feet of torque. To put that into perspective, that's the kind of absolutely earth-shattering power output that usually demands a multi-million-dollar hypercar price tag. So the whole crux of our explainer today is really this face-off. On one side of the ring, you've got the legacy European giants, brands with literally a century of racing heritage and engineering prestige. And on the other side, the Chinese challenger, the Denza Z, arriving with jaw-dropping numbers, completely unheard of tech, and zero respect for the old guard. So, can this newcomer actually dethrone the established luxury stalwarts? Well, to answer that, we first need to figure out exactly who or what Denza actually is. Section 1. Unpacking the Denza brand. Now, if you're in Europe or the US, you probably don't recognize the badge at all. Denza is positioned as this premium, heavily tech-focused middle child in the automotive world. Think of it sitting right alongside the likes of Mercedes, Audi, BMW, and Porsche. It's a massive step up from your standard daily drivers, but just a step below those completely unhinged hyper-luxury models. And the thing is, they didn't just pop up overnight. The brand actually started way back in 2010 as a joint venture between the Chinese mega corporation BYD and Mercedes-Benz's parent company, Daimler. They pumped out their first car in 2014. Fast forward to today, and BYD clearly sees the gold mine here because they now own 90% of it, firmly cementing Denza as their tech-focused premium arm. But the biggest date for us? 2026. That is when Denza has officially confirmed these cars are hitting the UK market. Section 2. The contenders. The Z and Z9 GT. So what exactly is rolling off those ships in 2026? We're looking at two very distinct vehicles: the sleek, low-slung Denza Z sports car and its highly practical, wildly powerful sibling, the Z9 GT Estate. And when you look at these numbers side by side, wow, the scale of this disruption becomes pretty obvious. The Denza Z uses a 3-motor setup, 2 at the back, 1 up front, to deliver that insane 1,583 brake horsepower. And despite weighing a pretty hefty 2,230 kilograms, it'll absolutely rocket from 0 to 62 miles per hour in just 2.25 seconds, with the top speed over 186 miles per hour. Meanwhile, the Z9 GT Estate is definitely no slouch either. It packs a massive 122 kilowatt-hour battery, pushes 952 brake horsepower, and hits 62 in just 3.4 seconds. These numbers are just relentless. But hey, numbers are only half the battle, right? How do they actually look? Let's break down the Z's styling. Now, I'll admit the front nose might look a little generic, maybe giving off slight Jaguar or Corvette vibes, but the rest of the car is undeniably striking. You've got this gorgeous low-slung carbon fiber roof, and Denza has incorporated what they call a flowing silk line right down the side profile, which blends perfectly into these crisp, slash-cut air curtains designed to tidy up the airflow over the rear wheels. Round the back, you get these beautiful lozenge-shaped rear lights that might actually remind you of a Bentley Continental GT, all sitting above a massive rear venturi. It's an elegant machine for sure. And this next bit really shows how Denza is catering to all extremes. For the hardcore track day enthusiasts out there, there is a track-biased racing version of the Z. It sports this massive adjustable rear tray wing that literally tips forward to deliver a crushing 1,060 kilograms of downforce at 217 miles per hour. It's super specialized, obviously completely impractical for a grocery run, but an absolute weapon of engineering. Shifting gears to the more practical side of things, let's look at the Z9 GT Shooting Brake Estate. Now, in the UK, this is going to arrive exclusively as a full battery electric vehicle, and it packs a really impressive 391 miles of range. Design-wise, it's a bit quirkier than the sports car. The front gets these massive, super intelligent LED headlights that carry just a hint of the MG4. But as you move down the side, you start noticing these fake side vents that, well, they don't actually do anything. And the rear bumper, it honestly looks like the designers asked, "How much styling would you like?" And the boss just said, "Yes." There are cut lines everywhere. It's a bit overstyled, but the overall proportions are still super fun. Section 3, Mind-Bending Automotive Tech. All right, aesthetics and raw speed are fantastic, but if Denza truly wants to rattle the legacy brands, they need something entirely unique. So let's step away from the spec sheet for a second and dive into the wild engineering going on under the skin here. Their absolute secret weapon is called Duism. It is a highly advanced chassis-by-wire system. Basically, it integrates magnetoreological dampers with a whole suite of sensors and cameras that constantly read the road ahead. It then instantaneously adapts the suspension, the steering, the braking, and the powertrain to soak up lumps and bumps. If you've ever experienced the famous Rolls-Royce Magic Carpet ride, this is essentially Denza's digital, highly aggressive equivalent. And the real-world applications of Duism? This is where it gets genuinely mind-blowing. Yes, it has an auto-lift mode so you can clear speed bumps without scraping the floor. Yes, thanks to individual motor control and extreme rear-wheel steering, it can crab walk diagonally or perform pencil turns where it literally spins in a tight circle. But the absolute coolest feature? The extreme blowout safety function. Imagine you get a flat tire at highway speeds. The car's suspension will actually lift and hold the damaged wheel completely off the ground, safely slowing you down to a controlled stop. That is just a brilliant piece of predictive safety tech. Moving inside, you might be expecting some sterile, screen-heavy spaceship, but Denza took a surprisingly practical route. Check out these quirks. First off, they haven't abandoned physical controls. You get millimetrically perfect stitching, highly tactile manual vent controls, and actual physical buttons for things like your demister and fans. Second, the touchscreen isn't just a giant tablet superglued to the dash. It's a smaller, incredibly crisp interface. Third, there is a dedicated motion sickness relief setting in the suspension menu that actively adjusts the car's visceral feedback to keep your passengers from getting queasy. And lastly, right there in the center console, is a little fridge, like a student's dorm room fridge. It's practical, it's weird, and it's kind of wonderful all at once. Section 4, the charging dilemma. But of course, with all this incredible tech, power, and range, we really have to talk about the day-to-day practicality of driving a hyper-advanced EV. Both of these cars use cell-to-body mounted LFP blade battery chemistry, which makes the chassis insanely stiff. But the real magic is the charging speed. A typical fast charge on a standard 150 kilowatt charger will take about 35 minutes to get you from 10% to 80%. But these Denza batteries are megawatt capable. If you plug into a 1,500 kilowatt flash charger, that 10% to 80% sprint happens in roughly 4 minutes. Literally 4 minutes. You could add 250 miles of range to the estate in just 5 minutes. Which immediately brings up the massive elephant in the room. Will the infrastructure actually be ready? Because the glaring issue right now is that there are currently 0 megawatt chargers available in the UK. Well, Denza knows this is a bottleneck, and they do have a plan. They've stated that as these cars roll out, they're going to install a significant number of their own chargers. And to prevent a massive 1,500 kilowatt draw from plunging the local town into darkness, these chargers will be power banked. And yeah, as a pretty funny side note, you absolutely could plug a tiny budget-friendly Dacia Spring into one of these mammoth megawatt chargers. It wouldn't blow up or anything, it just wouldn't charge any faster than the little Dacia is built to handle. Section 5. Ready for the UK? So as we wrap up this explainer, we have to look to the horizon. We've got mind-blowing speed, suspension that can hold a blown tire off the pavement, 4-minute charging, and built-in fridges. But is Denza genuinely ready for Europe? Well, Denza's Vice President Stella Lee has officially confirmed that 2026 launch date for the UK. But importantly, she also noted this. There is a little bit of tweaking to be done to make these cars suitable for European tastes. They clearly know that European driving dynamics, the road layouts, and our consumer expectations are wildly different from the domestic Chinese market, and they're putting in the hours to adapt the Z and Z9 GT before they arrive. Which leaves us with this final, really provocative thought. We've seen the 1,500 horsepower, we've seen the predictive safety tech, we've seen the sheer audacity of a brand trying to totally redefine luxury performance. But the ultimate test isn't on a shiny spec sheet, it's in the showroom. Would the sheer power, the wild technology, and the novelty of this newcomer actually be enough to break your loyalty to a traditional European sports car? Like, really think about it. If a Porsche 911 Turbo and a Denza Z were sitting side by side with the keys in the ignition, which one are you driving home? Thanks for joining me on this explainer, and I'll catch you on the next one.